Welcome back to Press Here. One of the best things about an IPO is it makes many of your employees very rich. One of the worst things about an IPO is it makes many of your employees very rich. My next guest held a party for his employees the day his company went public and then told them they'd catch hell if he ever caught them checking the stock price from work. Jeff Housenbold is CEO of Shutterfly. He is a past winner of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award and a graduate of Harvard Business School. So Scott McNealy was just on, and I asked him, can a young CEO like Mark Zuckerberg resist Wall Street pressures? And Scott said, no, it doesn't have anything to do with Mark. It has everything to do with the people in the office checking the stock price. And I hadn't thought of it that way. You saw the exact same behavior.
Yeah, we saw it at CMGI, at eBay, and at Shutterfly. And it's really about telling them that it's not the end of the journey. It's just a day in the life of the company, right? It's not the beginning or the end, and that it's a time to celebrate. But we got to get back to work. We have much bigger ambitions and bigger things to accomplish and customers to take care of. But it certainly does affect the culture, and you certainly, as a CEO, have to think about it.
Is there a point in which I mean, now all of a sudden I'm a very rich man, but I still got a boss, that dynamic changes somehow? That if I don't need you as boss, I mean, at least until I'm vested, I suppose, but you know what I mean? That there's a dynamic that changes. I'm nice to my boss because he pays me.
Right.
Yeah.
For certain people, that's true, right? And you'll see people start to lose interest and end up going on to do other things, and great corporations will figure out a way culturally to let them go. But there are other people who are driven much more by intrinsic motivators than just money. And those people, if you just keep lifting the bar and setting higher aspirations and goals for them, they rise to the occasion. So I really think it's about hiring the right people with the right mindset and reinforcing that through your company culture.
It seems like most people I know, at least who have made it big, in the Valley, maybe they take a little bit of time off, they buy a nice house, but ultimately they go back to work, even if they take some time off. And there's this, maybe this is a little naive, I don't know, you tell me, but it seems like there is this culture here of wanting to build things, of wanting to have an impact, of building great technology, and that even, yeah, maybe it's a kind of temporary distraction, but people go back to work. People come in, they clock in. Did you have that experience with your company? Yeah,
I totally agree that even the young folks who are making it, they end up starting their own company, right? There's the challenge of, can I do it again? And I think the greatest change is going from not much wealth to a lot of wealth overnight, but a lot of wealth to even more wealth isn't as big of a change, right? And so you see people who, Scott McNealy, did quite well at Sun, but that entrepreneurial bug is still in him, and now he's off doing weigh-in. And so we see that time and time again. Meg Whitman's back, trying to turn things around at HP. And so I think the culture of the Valley, they don't need to work, but we want to all build things and change the world in some way.
Does money become sort of a separator in terms of people's character? Do you learn more about them when they have some money?
I think during good times and trying times is when people's real colors come out, right? And so you'll see that. And at some of the companies I've been, the early pre-IPO people form kind of a clique, and then the new people who didn't make the wealth, who feel like they're doing all the work, and you start to have some culture clashes. And so I think you got to address it just straightforward. You got to be open.
How do you address such a thing? I mean, what you're saying, to amplify it, is you've got this group of engineers and you've got this other group of engineers that do pretty much the same thing, but these guys are richer than those guys.
That sucks.
It does. Well, you're saying you've got to you've got to address that right. How do you address that? I mean, that guy's got a cool car and I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about it in a sports analogy, right? So Wade and LeBron make more than the rest of the people on the team, but they all want to win. And so you have to create a common goal and a common aspiration that's bigger than just making money, because at the end of the day, we have to feed our families, want to create wealth. But the #1 reason people leave companies is they don't like their boss. Second is they don't think they have an impact. And third is they don't believe there's a strong vision. Fifth is compensation. So I think it's about open, honest, kind of transparent and authentic leadership and being direct about the changes that are happening in the culture.
But when you're public, your obligation is to your shareholders, and it is to create wealth. So how do you weigh those two things?
Yeah, I don't think they're diametrically opposed. I think if you create a great culture that's surrounded about innovation and treating the customer well, and you layer that on with good, sound business judgment about, managing your expenses, investing in projects that are worthwhile, killing the ones that aren't, that you can do both. You can satisfy the employees and create a great culture, which means you have higher retention rates. Your cost of acquiring new employees is lower. People want to work there, and that ultimately benefits the shareholders.
You absorbed Kodak's customers, basically, when Kodak went bankrupt. And then you moved out of California. You moved that manufacturing out of California, which goes back to proving that everything Scott McNeely says is right. That you moved immediately those factories out of California, making the photo cups and calendars and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we moved our manufacturing out of California about 5 years ago, and then as we continue to acquire other people's customers as they exit this business, Yahoo, Sony, American Greetings, and most lately Kodak, we're layering those customers onto our databases and our manufacturing platforms that are outside of California. Doing manufacturing in California is cost prohibitive, and given the regulations and ability to attract talent, it didn't make sense for us to be in California.
All right. Well, Jeff Housenbold with Shutterfly, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Up next, we continue our entirely unsolicited advice for young Mark Zuckerberg with the author of Good Boss, Bad Boss.